Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 8th episode of The Inside Line. Happy New Year. It is 2018, and it's going to be an amazing year. I am Gabbi Hall. If you're a regular listener, you know about our amazing sponsor, Team Ski Safe. I have worn my bracelet almost every day since I got it. Team Ski Safe bracelets are great for people involved in action sports like skiing because they make it easier for first responders to treat you effectively in the event of an emergency. I have my emergency contact information engraved on my bracelet. The unique ID on my bracelet gives first responders access to important medical information that I have loaded into Team Ski Safe's system. Team Ski Safe is the official medical bracelet of WiSP Sports. You can find more information about the bracelet and the great range of colors and styles by visiting their website at teamskisafe.com. And when you order your bracelet, remember to mention the Inside Line. So guys, last time we chatted was right before the Christmas holiday. And while many people were taking time off to, drink champagne and indulge in too many sweets, the World Cup Tour soldiered on with relatively minimal time off. And so we are going to recap what happened starting with Courchevel and take you all the way through the start of the new year on January 1st as we get going into the 2018 part of the season. So let's talk Courchevel. And I think there's really only one way to describe it. It feels like I've been saying this a lot in the last few episodes, but it was really the Shiffrin show. American powerhouse Mikaela Shiffrin won the giant slalom and the parallel slalom. And I was there for the giant slalom, which was a spectacular race. The slope was injected, so the snow was really hard. It was very challenging, and that slope was challenging as well. And so the good news was that for the first time on the ladies' tour, we actually had sunshine that day. There was no fresh snow, which we had it seemed like incessantly for the last few weeks. So at least we had good conditions. They were able to prep the hill really well after all that snow in the previous weeks. And like I said, Shiffrin won, and as per usual, I was able to chat with her after the race. Heads up, you're going to hear planes flying in the background of the interview you're about to listen to from the air show that was happening after the race. But without further ado, here's what Mikaela Shiffrin had to say after her win in Courchevel GS.
Well, Mikaela, congratulations on a great race. That second run, you had a few bobbles that I think were a little bit scary. Do you feel like you're pushing yourself harder in GS than you ever have before?
Yeah, I'm definitely taking more risk, and today was a huge step for me to, some of the turns that I made were really some of my best turns, and then for sure there were some scrappy turns and some mistakes, but the whole general mentality was aggressive, and that's been hard for me to get to a place where I feel confident doing that.
Does it feel good to be wearing the red bib again?
Yeah, that's incredible. I don't know if I've ever actually I've had the red bib once in GS, and it was only after Solden, and I lost it real quick. So we'll see if I can hold on to it, but I'm feeling better and better with my GS skiing, and it's an incredible moment today to get the red bib.
So the next day, after the giant slalom, the French resort played host to the first women's parallel slalom event. And, despite what everything is being said, we know it's not the first time in history that women have raced side by side in a panel slalom. The city events that they've had over the last few years are just one example of situations where women have raced side by side in a panel slalom. But it was the first time with this particular format where the ladies had a qualification run in the afternoon, and then a field of 32 competed head-to-head. And it was really interesting. You had some unique countries qualifying, but for the most part, you saw the standard leaders of the slalom, really tech fields, coming in and performing really well in the panel slalom. And none other than Mikaela Shiffrin won the event. She had won the city event in Stockholm previously, so I think everyone knew she could win a panel slalom. I don't know that anyone would really be surprised by her winning in Courchevel, but it is a discipline where a lot of different things can happen. When you're racing side by side with someone, someone could crash in the course next to you and throw you off. You can fall, you can hook your arm on a panel. So many things can happen that can prevent what we see as top skiers from making it to the next round and competing for, a podium spot. So that said, Shiffrin won the event. And the day before, I was curious a little bit about how she prepped for this event, particularly because the start gates are not just the traditional start wand that you see, but rather they're like horse gate starts. So there is a metal panel that's in front of them, and it beeps, and then that goes down, and they can go out of the start. So here's what Shiffrin had to say about her preparations for the event.
I had a couple days of training in the parallel slalom, just GS style slalom, and then I practiced some starts with the city event gates, and not too much because it's sort of it's not easy to make the transition, but it's sort of like slalom with some GS positioning. So I try to think about it that way, and keeps it simple. But for sure, a couple days of training was helpful.
And because this event was a first, Shiffrin made a little more history, as the winner. And making history seems to go hand in hand with Mikaela Shiffrin. I don't know if anyone is even surprised, when she beats a record or, reaches a new level of ski racing. What do I want to say? Ski racing heroism, maybe, or she's like a living legend. I mean, she's only in her early 20s. She's got a long career ahead of her, but she just had this living legend feeling about her. But I think one of the more interesting questions when it comes to the event is, does Mikaela even, like this discipline? Would she want to make more history in parallel events? Because it's not something that's a heavy part of the circuit. You have the parallel slalom, you have city events sprinkled in, you have the team event, which she doesn't really do, but it's sprinkled throughout the World Cup Tour. So anyway, in the press conference, here's what she had to say, about the parallel slalom discipline and how it kind of fits into what she does.
I enjoy racing it a lot. I think it's really fun, and it is really interesting to have this different dynamic when normally we're racing, slalom, GS, it's individual, and you don't have to worry about the other athlete. And for example, in the final between Petra and me, normally I always know that I'm going head to head with her, but normally I'm on course or she's on course, and we're not on the courses together. So that was a really cool way to experience that kind of fight with her. However, there are some things like if somebody falls in one course and shoots off into the other, there's this other extra risk for being injured, or it's sometimes it feels a bit rushed, and it feels like you go before you're ready, and it's a little bit difficult to really pull out the best skiing in those kind of scenarios. Yes. So there's some things of logistically to figure out, but it is very fun, and it's nice to have some other events to kind of change. Like for me, normally I'm racing slalom and GS, but even racing some downhill and having success there, or racing city event, it's a bit different. It adds some character to the season for me, and I think it keeps me feeling motivated and fresh.
So in the final round in Courchevel, so the way it works is they get to the final round, and it's the top two final, and then the individuals competing for third and fourth in the small final. So in the big final, she went up against Petra Vlhova. And, Shiffrin has said repeatedly this season how much Petra is pushing her in slalom. And people talked a lot about how they trained together before Levy. They've been neck and neck, really the entirety of the season and even last season. So it's an interesting rivalry. But Mikaela actually expressed it really well in the press conference after the race to talk about some of the intricacies, challenges even of racing side by side.
I'm gonna push all around because you never know what happened in parallel because it's a different discipline. And I wanna be in the final, but it was really close, and I think I was a little bit in front her in the middle, and I saw this, and then I wanna push more, but it was so close, but it was a good fight again with her.
And after things wrapped up in France, the ladies got a week quote unquote off between races. A lot of them went home. Surely some of them trained and worked out. I don't know if a World Cup athlete truly ever has, downtime. But after a week, they headed back on the tour to Lienz, Austria. And fun fact about Lienz, it's the hometown of Racey Stiegler's father. Racey was a guest on the show a month or so ago. And it wasn't Racey's best race. She's had a bit of a tough season. She was 25th in the slalom this year. And she's been a bit stuck in that 20-something result area. And I'm hoping she can reset in the new year. I mean, we've seen her in recent years get top 10 finishes, so she can get there. And I hope to see her do that. But while it wasn't a great race for her, it was the third straight win for Mikaela. And she has fond memories of Lienz herself. She had her first World Cup podium there. And she was really young. I mean, it's interesting to look at photos because she's grown up so much, obviously, in the last several years, as one does going from, 16 to 23. We're all very different people. But this hill, nevertheless, has been good to her through all those changes. And Shiffrin used that legacy of success as, as a good bib number to put more than a second between her and the rest of the field in her first run at Lienz, which really helped her secure the win there. It was hugely important. So she talked a little bit about that first run, but also the challenges of the second run. And here's what she had to say in the press conference.
It was a really good run. I was really loose. I was letting my skis go, and for sure running number 2, I had a perfectly smooth track, and I took that opportunity. So I was really excited with the first run. For the second run, I wanted to build on that, but it was definitely a bit more bumpy, and I wasn't going to risk everything. I just wanted to make sure I was smart and did some of my best skiing, at least in some parts of the course. So I felt some good turns, and I felt some turns that were a bit wild.
She's talking about these wild turns, and I think in addition to Mikaela's dominance this season, we're seeing the rise of this wild side of her. And I realized this trend in thinking about some of my interviews I've done with her, because I feel like I've talked to her a lot about this edge of her seat skiing that she's showing across disciplines. I remember really noticing it for the first time in Lake Louise last month, particularly in the Super G. And then really since then, it's been very clear that she's not resting on her laurels. She's fighting for every 100th of a second. It's, I think, really exciting to watch. It's exciting to watch her fight and push herself to the next level. And I think another level to that's interesting is that she pushes herself to be faster. And in order to do that, one of the things she does is she tunes out statistics and talk of records. And this has been as true for, the few years that I've been covering the Women's World Cup circuit, and that you'll often ask her about certain statistics or milestones that she's reached. I think as journalists, we pay a lot of attention to that because it can often dictate storyline. But she really has always emphasized that she takes things, one win at a time, and trying to enjoy skiing and enjoy the process. And so in a press conference in Lienz, the guy hosting the press conference asked her a little bit about this. It's a bit of a funny exchange. So listen in on what she had to say about the milestones and statistics.
There's like a new statistic every second, every single day. There's something new, and it's crazy for me. And it's always cool to know, but those kinds of things make me more nervous. And actually, in the end, it doesn't matter because I just want to be having fun with my skiing. I'm in a really good place with my feeling and my confidence. And right now, I'm really, really enjoying racing. So, like, the statistics don't matter. All of those things don't matter. I'm having a lot of fun.
I've talked about Mikaela a lot the last few episodes, but if she keeps winning, she will stay in the headlines. And I know you guys love hearing about her. And frankly, if she keeps winning, she's going to keep the overall lead. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I mean, I think we're far enough into the season to talk about this, but she has nearly a 500-point lead in the overall standings. I mean, it's a pretty staggering lead over Germany's Victoria Ravensburg. And especially when you compare it on the men's side, Marcel Hirscher's overall lead is, just over 50 points. So 50 points versus Shiffrin's 500-point lead. I mean, I think it speaks so much to her depth as an athlete, her, obviously ability to compete across multiple disciplines, which we've heard a lot about this season because she won her first downhill. And those numbers just really speak to me. So keep an eye on the overall standings, and that may change as we head into some of these speed races later in January. But it's right now, it's a very staggering lead. And that's what you get when you can win across disciplines. But I digress, because I also want to talk about Frida Hansdotter in the Lienz slalom, because Hansdotter, who competes for Sweden, returned to the World Cup podium. It's her first of the season, and she is an amazing Swedish skier. I really like her love of pink nail polish and the color pink. She does that when she races, wears pink nail polish. And so I'm just prone to liking her. It's my favorite color. But she's also won the Slalom Globe before. She's had an immense number of podiums in her career. I mean, I think I'd have to pull the statistics, but as I'm thinking about it now, I mean, if Mikaela Shiffrin was not part of the picture the last several years, I mean, I think you would have seen Frida Hansdotter as a world champion. I mean, Frida's been on the podium in the last 3 world championship slalom races, but Mikaela Shiffrin has won the last 3. So it'd be kind of interesting, like in a world where if Mikaela Shiffrin wasn't a factor, Frida Hansdotter had maybe been on the scene, 20 years ago, would she have been, the most dominant solid skier? That's all speculation. It's neither here nor there. But I just think it's something interesting to think about. So she's an amazing racer. It was nice to see her back in the top 3. And here's what she had to say about the day and her return to the spotlight.
I'm satisfied. The first 2 races was okay for me. I mean, I had fast parts, but I haven't really get it together. So it was really nice to be able to be on the podium today. I think it's super fun. It's always a good crowd and atmosphere, and I like those races.
Now, as you heard in that clip, she's won at Lienz before, back in 2015. 3 of her 4 career wins have been in Austria, so the country holds a special place in her heart. And of course, in the press conference, aside from talking about her own personal experience, Hansdotter got asked this cliched question that I have to think athletes are getting a bit annoyed, I guess is probably the best word. They're probably getting a bit annoyed at being asked it, but she got asked, what will it take to beat Mikaela Shiffrin? And I'm going to play you guys the answer. I don't know that it's necessarily something you guys haven't heard before, but I think it's an important reminder in what these athletes are trying to do in winning races and catching her.
We've been trying a couple of years now to stop her, but I mean, she's skiing fantastic. I mean, it's impressive to see, but we just have to keep on fighting. Like the second round, we were there almost, so it's still a lot of things to do, but it's just to keep on going, I think.
And I think to Hansdotter's point, Shiffrin won the race. She's tough to beat, but she's not unbeatable. In fact, Estelle Alfund from Sweden won the second run of the Lienz slalom. She beat Shiffrin actually by more than a second that run. And Frida was actually only 800 seconds away from her on the second run. So yes, Shiffrin is insanely dominant. She won the race as a whole, but she's not invincible or so far beyond reach that she's unstoppable. These athletes get close. They have these runs where they beat her. And so I think once some of these girls find the consistency that Shiffrin has, I think that's one of Shiffrin's superpowers, if you will. So once they get that consistency, I think we'll see even more women catching up to Shiffrin, particularly in slalom. The other events, it's a bit more of a mix. But to that point, to that beatability, Federica Brignone of Italy actually ended Shiffrin's winning streak after Courchevel in the Lienz slalom by winning the final GS race of 2017 at Lienz. It was an incredibly tight race. 800ths of a second between Brignone and Shiffrin, who was third. Victoria Ravensburg was sandwiched between them in second place. We've seen her a lot on the GS podium. But Brignone, we haven't seen. She surprised herself with the victory because she actually didn't feel that great on the course. And so here's kind of her thoughts on what happened that day.
I have to say that today I'm so happy. I didn't expect to win today for sure, but I wanted to be good for and maybe come back on the podium. We're so close. I have to say that I'm lucky too because Mikaela and Vicky, they're really, really close to me. But that was the first run too. I think that's a tough race. In the first run, I wasn't really satisfied, as you said, but why? Because I started not so good. I started slow. My feeling was to turn, and my ski wasn't responding so well. But from the middle part, I really skied as I wanted. And I tried to ski like this in the second run. I knew there was no light. I knew that it was bumpy in the second run. So I tried just to ski fast and to attack because it's always like the feeling is not there in the second run.
You know, unsurprisingly, Brignone feels that her team is what makes her strong and pushes her. I mean, we've seen Manuela Molg on the podium several times this season, her older teammate. Everyone's familiar with Sofia Goja, who's been a guest on the show before. So they really push each other. But here's what she said about the team and their dynamic in her own words.
I think our team is really strong, and that's our secret. I mean, there's many girls skiing good, so every day of training, you have somebody really going fast. And if you want to be one of the fastest, and we all want to be fast, you have to train and to concentrate. You can't really let a day go or just chill. If you want to be one of the best one, and you know that in training you have your teammates, and you know that they are one of the best of the world. So it's always fun and nice to be with them. It means that you're strong and you're skiing good, so you come to the races and you're confident.
And this win was a big moment for Brignone because she had not been on the podium yet this season. She won the final GS of last season at Aspen when the Italians swept the podium. But then she injured her adductor during summer training. She was in South America. The adductor is like a hip groin injury. And so she was spent a lot of the late summer, early fall recovering, doing PT. She skipped the first GS of the season at Solden. And she's even said that she's still not back to 100%, but she's back on the podium, took a win. So I can't wait to see what she'll be able to do when she is back to 100%. They have a GS race coming up in Kranjska Gora on January 6th. So we'll see if Federica can use that momentum and keep winning. But she's, always been a very strong GS skier. So I think once she's back to feeling confident and pain-free, you're going to see her on the podium a lot more often this season. Heaven forbid anything happens, fingers crossed, but I think we'll see a lot more of her. She's a great athlete, and she can podium in a lot of different events and win in a lot of different events. And so with that, we leave Austria and we leave 2017 and we move on to Oslo, Norway, and the new year. So the athletes, 16 men, 16 women, top athletes, are selected to race in the city events. And that happened in Oslo, Norway. It was the first such event hosted in Norway. They've previously had city events like this in Moscow and Munich and Stockholm. But they built a ski course at the Holmenkollen Nordic ski jump just outside of Oslo. And for those listening who are not hardcore World Cup fans, city events are very high in entertainment value, but don't necessarily give you a great idea of what World Cup racing is as a whole. Because if you watched a city event race and that was the only ski race you ever saw, it wouldn't give you a great sense of what the World Cup looks like regularly. I mean, not only is it a side-by-side parallel event, which you don't see that happening in the traditional disciplines like slalom, giant slalom, downhill, and super G, But you also don't see a complete field. So like I said, 16 of each gender compete, as opposed to maybe the 50 to 70 athletes that you'd see in a full field. And then in the same vein, you see great athletes get knocked out in earlier rounds. We didn't see as much on the women's side this year, but you still see people like Marcel Hirscher, who's the men's overall leader, absolutely dominant in the men's tech events, getting knocked out and not even making it to, the final rounds. And then athletes maybe you've never paid attention to can win. So I think it's the city events are very exciting. It doesn't mean I'm against city events. I really like them and enjoy watching them. I just think for those of you who are not invested in the World Cup the way that I am, it's good to know that they're exciting events, but they're not necessarily representative of the World Cup as a whole. So now that you've heard my lofty opinions, we can talk about what actually happened in Oslo. In the ladies' race, I'll give you one guess as to who won. It should be on the tip of your tongue after the extensive conversations about her in this episode. Yes, Mikaela Shiffrin. She beat Switzerland's Wendy Holdener in the final round. And then Melanie Maillard of Switzerland took third, and it was her first World Cup podium. And that was very exciting because I feel like she's been on the cusp of a podium for a while. It's just been, finding the right event, and perhaps she just needed to be in the right mental state. I mean, there's a whole list of factors, but she got it on the podium, which was very exciting. She beat Frida Hansdotter in the small final. So I'm excited to see what she'll do the rest of the season. I'll be curious to see if this podium gives her the confidence to know that she can do it again, and see if she'll do it in, some of the other disciplines this season. But like I said, Shiffrin won, and it added another 100 points to her overall lead, which was really exciting. It's how she's gotten up to this nearly 500-point lead in those standings. And it kind of kicks off this really busy month of January, heading into the Olympic Games in Pyeongchang. And I think the busyness of her schedule will be interesting to watch. I mean, she did it last year. She won the overall title, so she knows how to manage her energy levels. But it's nonetheless very challenging. And in the press conference after her win, she was asked a little bit about, how she's handling the schedule and getting ready for Pyeongchang.
I'm still really focused on these next races. We have Zagreb slalom, Kranjska Gora, a slalom and GS, and then we have Blackout, and it's really one race after another for these next couple weeks. So it's almost like the Olympics is close, but it feels so far away. So I'm just focusing on every day trying to be at my best.
And while she's trying to be at her best this month, I am trying to be at my best this month. I'm going to be bringing you even more news from the World Cup circuit, even more interviews as we head into the Olympic Games. We're going to have so much exciting content coming your way. If you guys are loving the podcast, please leave a 5-star review of WiSP Sports Radio on iTunes. I also welcome any ideas for guests or issues you'd like to see discussed on this podcast. Feel free to leave a comment. Tweet me at Hall_Gabby. Find me on Facebook. I'm open to suggestions. More episodes of The Inside Line can be found at wispsports.com, skiracing.com, and just about anywhere you listen to podcasts, including iTunes and the Google Play Store, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify. Just search for WiSP Sports Radio. With over 700 episodes across 30 unique shows and a global audience of 1.5 million, WiSP Sports Radio is the world's largest network of podcasts in women's sport. And I also have to mention before we close out that myself and the head of WiSP Sports Radio, Chris Stafford, and I have been testing out this new app called Anchor. You should download it on your phones. We're doing little 5 to 10 minute updates on what's happening in the world of women's sports. Every couple days, there will be a lot of different guests and voices on there. So get on Anchor, find WiSP Sports Radio, keep in tune. It'll give us an opportunity to give more frequent updates than episodes every 2 weeks. And don't forget, you can call in when you download the app. So you can't call in here. We're not a live radio station, but you can call in on Anchor, share opinions, share thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, anything your heart desires, and you might get featured on the show. It's very cool. And we are hoping to engage you guys there. So please get involved. I thank you so much for tuning into the show. I will be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode of The Inside Line. Until then, enjoy the start of the new year and good luck with your resolutions.